Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eddie Marcus again, spokesman and advocate of basic human rights for all people. Today, I want to talk to you about some things that perhaps you haven't thought about. Considering all of the chaos that seems to be impacting this nation from the White House to the Senate, throughout the nation and its people, there are people on either side and each supporting their side. One side really sees obvious wrongdoings. The other side sees them as well, but figure it's okay. And what I really also see that is happening with this particular individual in the White House and the way he's attacking all of the major institutions in this particular nation and how people are responding, he is basically trying to prove what other leaders around the world where dictators are have proven in their circles. And that is that there is no moral nation. There are no moral people. People just profess to be such. And when put on the testing line, they will all acquiesce and legitimize an immoral nation. Now, when Trump is keeping his people who know more about the case than those who have been presented to the public and have been put through the investigation, who themselves have indicated that these things did happen and they are in violation, and yet the president has witnesses that could either affirm that this is true or vindicate as it being something otherwise. But by Trump keeping these people from coming forward and doing what needs to be done according to the Constitution and the laws of the United States, he is basically doing the same thing that the mob does when it's caught in a situation that's in violation that can cause them some punishment. They want to get their witnesses to shut up, maybe pay them or kill them. And it is the same practice that Donald Trump is doing. He might not be killing them, but he got them scared to death. Or maybe they're not scared. Maybe they're just as he has and others have said, that there are no moral people. Ladies and gentlemen, since 1983, I have shared with you a message sent to you by a spirit. When I say spirit, I mean invisible, untouchable, unable to be emotionalized. And the evidence of the spirit is all creation that we are familiar with that man could not, cannot, and will never be able to do. And that's the only justification that this spirit needs. And I have been given that mission to remind you about this power, to remind you that it is another choice that you, the people, have before you, that you do not just have to go along with that which is immoral. You don't have to go along with unrighteousness. You see, when you have unrighteousness, you have a lot of pain and you have a lot of suffering. You have people losing their lands and other people becoming slaves and other people running from one territory to another trying to find some relief. This happens when you have immoral representation. And the fact that you have immoral representation is also an indication that the people themselves, to a certain degree, have represented immorality. But otherwise, there should not be an immoral person in the house. And if that person does get in there, it is the moral responsibility and the duty of moral people to get them out. To get them out. Now, that is easier said than done. You see, when you start thinking about moral people, when you start thinking about the other choice, when you start thinking about righteousness, you start thinking about that power that created the earth, that made it possible for all human beings to live on the earth, and those essentials that are necessary for survival have already been prepared for. And the only thing that the people have to do in order to access that and use them for their benefit is to be righteous, to be proper, to be moral. And when that doesn't happen, you have people who cannot access these essentials for life. And yet they are important, and the world knows it. They don't say you can't get them. They say in order to get them, you got to play their game. And their game is not caring about one another. Their game is about the power. And to maintain that power and allow you to access those essentials, you have to have money. Money which they make, money which they control, money which they determine who gets and how much. And then they put all of the cost, the prices on all of the things that you need: food, clothing, shelter, education, health care, all of these things, and many people cannot afford these things. That is the result of an immoral leadership and immoral people. That is the face mask of unrighteous people. And so, ladies and gentlemen, when we say that a man can come to you and tell you that it is morally right that everybody have peace, prosperity, and joy in their lives, that it is morally right that everybody have access to those essentials that are necessary for their survival. When someone comes to you and tell you that it is morally right, that it is righteous to do these things, and people who vote for a political process who go against these things, then what do you expect? Many of you might say our major concern is to make sure that we beat Donald Trump. And that would be the howling cry of the Democrats. But that could only be successful if people are not connected with what righteousness is about. You see, people who are connected with righteousness are going to vote for righteousness. They're going to vote for what's proper. And if the nation says, well, we're not concerned about what's proper, then that's the nation. But not you, because moral people are going to do what is morally right. And when they lose, they're not going to follow the rules and regulations of an immoral people. They're not going to follow the rules and regulations of unrighteousness. They're not going to do it. That's the difference between moral and immoral. That's the difference between righteous and unrighteous. Now, you can find all kinds of people who will say, well, I wanted to be good, but when I put in a box, I had to go do the whatever it took to survive. And God understands that, and God will excuse me. I don't know what God you've been talking about or who's been telling you about that God. But when God tells you to do the righteous thing and you stand on the righteous thing, then you become God's responsibility. You don't worry about what somebody's going to do to you. You don't worry about they're going to put you in jail. You don't worry about this and that. God is your responsibility. You are God's responsibility. You are representing God. Now, when you represent God, you don't have to lie and cheat and steal to try to get power. You hear people saying that the senators are trying to be political because they want to keep their jobs. Who wants to keep a job in hell? These people do. They want to keep a job in hell. They want the money. They want to be able to say they got a pension. They want to be able to say they got health care that they can access, even though you can't. Even though you are paying for theirs, they still will not support what is proper because they are saying it doesn't matter. So, ladies and gentlemen, I had not said anything about the past couple of days. I've been sitting around because basically the same things that I say any given day is nothing but a repeat of the same things that I said the day before. And yet I find myself up saying it. I hear people talking about suppression of votes, trying to make sure that they get the votes that count where the electoral college is, and that they will do whatever is necessary to do this. Now, I cannot understand a nation, are well aware of these things, well aware of the tricks of the devil, well aware of the tricks of the unrighteous group. Watch this stuff and then let it go forward and then fall in line. Somebody say, well, don't submit. You've already impeached Trump. Now the trial, they have stated over there that they're going to work hand in glove with the defense to make sure that he does not get out of office. Many people are saying leave it up to the 2020 election. Well, what if the 2020 election puts him back in there? What if the connections with that extra help, whether it's Russia or China or somebody else, gets this man back in office? What are you going to do? You just going to fall in line and complain for the next 3 or 4 years? I say that you do not follow the dictates of an unrighteous person. You do not follow the dictates of those that are immoral. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody is moral. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the system that is set up before you. And I personally believe that if this nation would allow Donald Trump to do the things that he's doing and support him and let him get away with it, then I think that it is prudent that the American people also nullify the justice system. Just forget the justice system. With crime and violence, Donald Trump can do it, then others can do it. If he don't have to go to jail, then others shouldn't have to go to jail. If they can go to jail, then Trump can go to jail. If they got to be righteous, then Trump got to be righteous. If they got to be righteous, then your senators got to be righteous. And it ain't about no vote. It ain't no about election time. If they're not righteous, get their butts out of there right now. Those of you who are righteous, stand up for it. Get them out right now. Don't be waiting till election time. But if you are not there yet, then you cannot do that. And if I'm speaking this, who else is speaking it? I hear the social media commentary on this point. They are talking just as loud as I am, and really that's all they can do on that microphone. I don't see any of them in the streets leading people to make up their minds that they're not going to go along with this kind of stuff. And I'm really not going to put them down because the weather's kind of cold out here right now in Minnesota. You got a lot of ice and you got a lot of snow going on. And right now I just don't have access to transportation. The truth of the matter is I got no money. So I'm kind of caught in a spot. I mean, caught in a spot that seeming like the only thing that I can do, or at least one of the things I can do, is just talk. And the other things I can do is not follow the rules and regulations. Now, I know I'm just a small pea in the pot. I've done this thing for years. I've been back and forth in jail. I've violated the rules and regulations. I've committed crimes in protest of the system. I have gone and spoken at churches where people say they're familiar with God and born again, but I haven't found any that responded to that righteousness. All they want to do is, well, I don't do what they're doing. And what they're doing allows everything to go on as it's going. But I stand here, ladies and gentlemen, to tell you the fact that there is a God, and it's not Trump. There's a righteous God, a God that cares about all people all over the earth, a God who will let you know that there are no people more important than you. There are no people less important than you. I want you to know that this God is real, and this God will vindicate you if you choose God. God cannot and will not come to your rescue when you have chosen another God. And when God finds somebody whose heart is a little pure enough, he will reveal himself to that person, and it is that person's responsibility and duty to go forward and speak to you, to give you an understanding and a knowledge of God and what God is about and what God requires of you. However, unrighteousness and those who don't care about God have had a major effect on the lives of people. And people really don't know God. They believe in God. Oh, they got a lot of beliefs, but it's like a straw in the wind. It's like a car when the tsunamis come. I don't care how big it is, how truck it is, how big a house it is. When that tsunami hits it, it flows just like a feather. And this world is so corrupt all over. It's so corrupt till when somebody started to stand up believing, I'm telling you, they're going to actually take a whooping. But if you know God, they can't whoop you. If you know God, a tsunami can't whoop you. It just take you someplace else. If you know God, a bullet can't whoop you. It just deliver you to a wonderful place, I guess. All I can say in earnest is that in the moment in time when you are acting as if you know God, when you are giving the evidence that you know God, there is something that you receive that the world don't give you and the world can't take away. You might not have all of those benefits that's promised to a people who trust in God, who put their faith in God, who honors God. You might not have those benefits, but you have something else. You have something in your spirit that's more precious than gold. It's more powerful than any recognition, any amounts of money, any award you can get. It allows you to cross the Red Sea without even getting wet. It allows you to go to prison and come out on September 11th when the World Trade Center is being bombed, planes flying in them are being destroyed. And you can say to yourself, if the people had trusted God, in fact, be more specific, if the people had rejected George Bush as the president of the United States and voted for a write-in black candidate who didn't have any money named Eddie Marcus, that wouldn't have happened. That wouldn't have happened, ladies and gentlemen. The wars that we're having going on in the world now, they wouldn't be happening. That thing in Afghanistan would be over. We, the nation of the United States of America, would be teaching the world what it means to be beautiful, what it means to be kind and loving. That's what we would be doing had you made a different choice. But you could not make that choice because you weren't there yet. You just could not vote for a poor black man, a man who run as a write-in. You couldn't do it. There was no way on the face of the earth you could do it. And there was no way on the face of the earth that you could avoid Donald Trump. There was no way. You have been reduced to that level, and it is what it is. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to find myself repeating myself, so I decide that I better just close this thing off right now. And thank you so very much for giving me these 18 minutes of your time. And until next time, this is Eddie saying goodbye.